Hello, good morning. It's Saturday, at the end of 2018. What is it? December 29th? And we're going to be just messing around, figuring out the tuning system just that much more on the race car Nissan version, GTR. This is going to be lowest weight, full horsepower, running the Nürburgring. So, yeah, let's get to the track. That's the car in the top right corner, or at the top of the screen, top middle. GTR GT3 Shozi Motorsports 2013. This car was a monster when it first came out. It had so much handling and stability. And even in this game, it still holds true to that and has a lot of handling and mobility. This is the new one that just came out with, oh my gosh, it's so fast. Oh, it's so fast. Uh, I try not to drive my fast cars like this one, the super fast car. I try to stay out of it because to me, they're not fair because the way you can tune them and the way you can drive them, and if you got a good tuner and a good driver, they're very hard to beat. But just to break things down, I am on a controller, and on top of that, I use the D-pad. So my suspension setup will probably be vastly different from what you see, what you're used to seeing people run, what you're used to seeing people do. I'm not sure if there are people out making tuning videos, but I'll start making tuning videos because not everybody tunes the same, not everybody drives the same, not everybody has the same driving controller, steering wheel, settings, setups. Like, it's all different. So my tune is based for my driving style and my settings and my system. And I'll just show you, I never use traction. I never use this, or this. The only thing I use is on weak, and that's because I couldn't set it to my specific liking of ABS. It would be the lowest version of ABS. Because I came from this world, and that world is a lot safer. Let me call it that. Safer. And so these is what I run on my controller settings. I have this, yeah, for my controller, but you can, like, if you changed your settings over here in your options, if you changed your settings on your controller, so you can put your wheel on all of these different versions of the wheel work. I think, yeah, I have mine on. I don't too much care. You'll see in the video why I have mine on, but it messed me up at first, but after I got used to it, it wasn't too bad. So that's why this over here says controller, but if you have a steering wheel, all of these are going to say steering wheel settings. And if you do have a steering wheel, this is the very first place you go to tune your driving style. Right here. These three right here. You do not go over here to start tuning your driving style. You don't mess with any of these digits. You come here and you drive a car. Pick a car. Don't matter the car. Be mindful that you will be in this car for a very long time if you want to get good. If you just want to play the game, come over here, pick a car, make sure it feels smooth going in and out of corners. It wants to feel smooth gassing and braking. You don't want to have any indecision on, is it too early to gas? Is it too early to brake? Once you start learning everything that you're supposed to learn and know about the track, the car, the people around you, which is the very most important thing, the people around you, then you'll have this set for where you want. Like, I've played Gran Turismo since it came out, all of them. So I know what these are and what they mean, and the way that I like them. So steering sensitivity is just like it says. I'm on a D-pad, so I need my inputs on the steering like I want them. I don't like delays. I don't like any type of input lag, none of it. When I push a left or a right, I want the car to react. And if y'all don't know, it's been pressure sensitive since PlayStation 2. So the harder I press it, the more it turns, the faster I press it, and yada yada, so forth, so on. I like this the lowest because, like I said, I'm on a controller, and so I don't have a force feedback from the wheel to help me in my tuning and the way it tunes. So I need my gas throttle the the highest responsiveness with the lowest reaction on the car. So if I have my torque all the way down, when I hit the gas, the highest probability of the torque going all the way to the ground is this way. When this is up, I feel every little thing in the throttle process. Like, you feel everything. And it's incredibly hard to explain. Just try it. Like I said, come over here and tune these three. But just try it, because this right here is very, very important. Almost as important as this. And if you're on a wheel, this is the most important. So I have mine all the way up because when I counter steer, like I said, it's a controller. When I counter steer, I want that input to be extremely fast as well. So I'm not sure about this race car. It doesn't really have much counter steering in the driving because it has the downforce, and once your tune is precise and you know which way and what way you're going and how you're doing it, then your counter steering pretty much just goes. Can't think of the word right now, but it disappears basically. You don't really counter steer in a race car once your tune is set. So onto the tune page. Like I said at the beginning, lowest weight, highest horsepower, and these, like this setting right here, something disappears right here, is very important. Right over here in this area will be your bar graph, your horsepower to torque at the RPMs bar graph. This graph is the most important because it deals with, as I say, torque on this side, horsepower on this side. I think it's this side. Yeah, horsepower on this side. RPMs are down here. They're at the bottom. Okay? So the way you read this graph is your torque on the left is the gray line. Your horsepower on the right is your green line. So the highest your torque power is, your torque power, yeah. The higher your horsepower is, and then the green line starts to dip down, that's your peak horsepower at that RPM. See, they did some funny stuff on this one. You used to be able to look at all of this stuff at the same time with another metric that used to be in this area. It said weight distribution. It told you the balance of the car, but they took that out, and as well as not being able to look at this graph while you're down here tuning your transmission. So they give you that graph, and they take it away. Like you're supposed to be in this graph looking at that graph, but they just minimize the importance of this graph, which is the basic graph to set your gearbox. Like, how are you going to know where to set your power band in your transmission if you don't even know where this graph is? Because this tells me my bar, this car says 1,000 to 7,000 RPMs. So I know I'm basically going to be between 3,000 and 6,000 RPMs doing most of my work. And with the torque band flattening out at 597 so early in the RPM levels, that tells me that I can either have a very short power band with a very responsive accelerator, or I can have a decently open power band with a very, very, very smooth accelerator. Now, there's problems. You have to set a different suspension with each transmission, because this game is funny like that. Like, it tightens up the transmission. Yeah, the tighter your transmission, then the funnier. I say funnier. I haven't really gotten this part down of my tuning yet, but I know that a certain transmission has to run a suspension a certain way, and the other transmission has to run a suspension a certain way. Right now, I'm on the other transmission, which is a more open transmission, but it's super responsive. So like, I wanted the responsiveness of a very tight transmission, but I wanted it open, because right now I'm tuning 5-speed and 6-speed cars. So like, this is a 6-speed car. Like, I did a 7-speed car, a 458 transmission, and I did it backwards, because I tune the transmission first, and then I put the rest on, because you can have so many more moving parts over here, whereas you get a transmission set based on the car and how it drives. When you get a transmission set, then you can tune around that transmission and reach a maximum speed per corner. That's how I get fast. Some people tune suspensions first, which is how I got my 458, because my friend gave me the suspension because I was having a little trouble with the tuning mechanism, and he gave me the suspension, and I tuned a transmission around the suspension, which is backwards for my style. I come here and I get my power bands down, I get my starting line down, I get my shift point in first with maximum RPMs and no very little maximum RPMs with very little drop off when I shift. So the optimal transmission is you'll have max acceleration all the way through every gear, and when you shift, you don't have any drop off. You don't have any mileage drop off. You don't have a very high RPM drop off. You don't have like a suspension drop off. And when I say a suspension drop off, you don't want your car rocking back and forth when you shift. Like, that's basic racing knowledge right there. If you're rocking or slipping, then you ain't winning. Like, I'm not a dragger, but I have drag friends, and they tell me spinning ain't winning. And it's the same thing in racing. If you're going around a corner and your tires are spinning and not gripping and going, you ain't winning. So that's what all of this prevents and gets away from. Reducing your spinning so that you have maximum grip and speed. I gotta change controllers. I'm using the wrong controller. That's my shooting controller. Alright, there we go. Alright, so where was I? So, transmission. Yeah, so I'm in the process of tuning this transmission right now. I haven't drove it on the straightaway yet. Matter of fact, like, when I get on the track, I'm gonna do a straightaway run just to see what my 5th and 6th gear do, because I kind of know what 1, 2, and 3 are doing right now. 4 seems pretty good. I might have to make it a little bit longer or shorter, either way, but I got it set up. It took me a while to find it, but I got it set up so that I can adjust my gearbox. Like, my first isn't all the way slammed over here to get maximum acceleration. That's street cars. I'll show y'all a little later on another video how you tune a street car to get off the line. Race cars don't do that. Very, very different because of this right here. And so you have to take this into effect in everything you do. Downforce. Everything you do in a race car, you have to take this into effect. And even on this track, like, I'm trying some new tunes out, because normally right here on a race car, I have like a whole lot of toe, because when you have tow on a race car and you're trying to get maximum speed per corner, it's easier on your throttle and your throttle points at the around the apex. I say around because I like to tune to throttle before the apex. I'll show you in the video. I just do. But it was easier for me to stabilize the car with the funky setup with this up and high. But here recently I've been tuning with no rear toe because I don't want any movement in my rear end when I throttle to come out the corner. Because if you have movement in your rear end when you throttle to come out the corner, then it makes your car unstable and it makes you want to set off balance, and you don't want to be off balance because it does some funny stuff. If you're having trouble balancing your car, turn this on and it will balance your car out drastically, but it won't show you the finer points in where your tuning is going wrong. It will cover that up. And if you're going too fast and coming out of corners and you counter steer, you can't counter steer adjust, turn this on. It'll help you with all your counter steering adjust while you're tuning to get better. And then you'll understand. Ooh, that sounds nasty. And then you'll understand a little easier and better where you're going wrong in your tuning and how you're going wrong in your tuning and what to adjust to fix your oversteer and understeer and all of this other stuff. So all of this right here in the suspension is oversteer, understeer. It's oversteer, understeer. It's comfortability in your straight line. It's entry and exit speeds, feel, point. Like tuning a car in Gran Turismo is all about how you feel and the way you like to drive your car. So like, I can't really change cars and show you different tunes and pages, but so like on race cars, I run them high, very high ride height because of this, of the downforce. Street cars, you don't have downforce. Some of them do. You paying high dollar for that car, which you don't really see many of them cars on the road. But some of them do, and a bunch of them don't. But when you're in a race car, you have adjustable downforce. So you can set this to drive however you want. Like normally, I used to drive this up here. Boom, set that there. And then I put this right here in the halfway point. Boom, set that there. And then I tune my suspension. But like I've been saying, I'm trying this new setup as well as testing some other things out. And so this is what I got right now. And this is very, very close to my baseline tune. Like I set a baseline tune and then I start tweaking from there. What I've done from the baseline tune before I started broadcasting is I lowered this ride height. Like I typically run this like high in the rear because I had a high rear toe to catch my rear end when I was coming around the apex. And since I don't have my rear toe that high or my rear ride height that high to swing with all of that speed, I have my toe lower since I'm not swinging with so much speed, which in what I'm saying doesn't make sense because you want the most speed per corner, but I wasn't stable. Like I wasn't coming out of the corners with like confident throttle. Like that's the basis. What you want to get in racing is coming out of corners with confident throttle. You want to come out of corners screaming. You hear a lot of people say slow in, fast out. That's exactly it. You want to hit the brakes at the latest point possible with the most stability. Go into the apex with the right line. Gas it before, at, or right after the apex, depending on things. And you want to be confident in that throttle to where you know your car's not going to do any funny business. Like if you go look at a couple of my videos, you'll see funny business coming in and out of corners because I was tuning, learning my stuff. But here recently, I feel like I found sort of my driving style based on my controller and my D-pad and how I use it, how I play the game. All right. There's so much to get into, like each one of these things affects another thing. And so I tried to start in the transmission because once you have it set, and you may have to come back and scrap this transmission and do a whole nother transmission, but you'll have knowledge onto which way to go. This is a guess. This is a guess transmission. I have no knowledge on what this car is going to do, how it's going to go. I chose this car because of the max horsepower, the weight, the braking down there in the bottom left, and the cornering and stability. Okay, that's why I chose this car. The acceleration and the max speed is a little low. It's kind of low for, actually it's very low for GR3. But the braking, cornering, and stability is very high for GR3. I could go out and go into loading screens and show y'all different cars and stuff, but I don't want to spend time in the garage. I want to be on the track. And so here I am on the track, because when I get done with all this talking, wow, 20 minutes of talking? Well, it's a lot to explain in Gran Turismo, but yeah, and I'm broadcasting too, so if you come in after this explanation, sorry, because I'm not gonna go over it again. I'm just gonna start tuning. But yeah, so I would tell y'all like where to start and how this and how that, but this is a baseline tune, and I'm starting from scratch to give the car true seat time and a true tune, because that puts the confidence in my driving style, and I like driving confidently, because who's not faster driving confidently? So I know GR3s typically like it between like 63 and 70. You got to pay attention to your acceleration in the bottom left corner. If you see on the first tick, it went lower. So like you just got to pay attention to it, because you can even go up and it'll go lower. You have to find the sweet spot. And so I found typically it's between like 60 and 70 in race cars because of the start. Like typically they're for the most part in Grand Prix. I'm not so sure, but like circuits and stuff, like they're starting on from a grid. They're not rolling into it. And I'm not very sure on what makes a rolling start or a grid start. I'm sure it's like the championship season or whatnot, qualifying and all of these other factors. But yeah, that has been taken into a factor, because when you're at a grid, you don't want your first gear bouncing at the red line, and you also don't want it sluggish. But this Gran Turismo Sport is funny because I haven't found a first gear medium yet. So I have to start in a different gear, bounce it down to first, gauge it up, and then typically I really don't even see first. So you have to go by the feel in the race car. You can tweak it and fine tune it and get it down to your very much specifics. You'll see what I mean. Like this is very much off. My first gear bounces right now. It doesn't have much drag. I call it drag to it. It just bounces, and it's horrible. But second gear is not so bad, and after these two gears, it's it's basically easy. That's why people typically drive the car in third gear in this game, no matter what, because the first and second gear on Gran Turismo Sport are monstrous. I've very few cars I've smoothed the first and second gear out, and the motor has to be bomb with it in order for that to happen. And speaking of which, since we're on transmission, the motor, to see the size of the motor is, you see how they make all this so funny? And you can pull it up while you're in this screen. I forget where it's at. But you can pull up the size of the motor in the screen, and it'll tell you the displacement. And then you'll know how to run your transmission. I think this is a big motor. I think it's a V6 or V8. I can't remember. I haven't drove it enough. And there's another screen where it definitely tells you that, but it's in the garage. And so like, I forgot, you could scroll over here and it would tell you. I don't remember where it is though. Cause I did it in the Viper the other day, the street car, and it was like a 7997 size motor. I had a tough time getting the acceleration from each gear while maintaining proper speed ratio per gear and a top speed. Like generally, if you go for top speed, you won't have very good acceleration, and vice versa. If you go for acceleration, it's hard to get top speed. Like I said in this first gear, you want to find the sweet spot on your top speed so that you're neither bogged down nor burning through your gears. You're a steady, smooth, fast medium, which helps you turn, which I'll get into in a second. But you know, let's just drive the car for right now and see how it rolls. Third gear felt a little boggy right there towards the top. And I get down and dirty with my cars, like every aspect of the, I'll get into it where every aspect of the gear I'll look into. Like typically I'll start here if I'm online racing with people. I'll start here and see how it goes. Yeah, you see that was good. Well, you see how it bounced right there? Like sometimes if I want to get down and dirty down into the car and give it some true love, I'll figure out first gear and watch this. You see the difference from the way I started in third? See how much time I spent getting up to 40 miles per hour? Not 60, 40. You see how much time that took to get to 40? And look, I'll try and play it safe. That wasn't bad, but I don't like half throttling, not on no straightaway. You see, that was very boggish. Turning that left hand just there. See, there's so much that just happened. Like, it's hard for me to talk about that as fast as it's happening and stay on track, right? So like one of those corners, it pushed wide where I wanted to be on the gas. Like I should have been on the gas where the car was still processing the turn, pushing wide. And if I'd have got on the gas, it would have stayed on that wide line and I'd have been in the dirt back there. So I'm gonna start over and give it just a smooth one. So I think third might be able to stretch into the 120s right there. If I get third into the 120s, I think it's wrong. That downshift didn't sound right. Alright, where's my time? Let's go on 40. It's in the bottom left corner. See what happens if you shift too fast off the line? Your car will not hold anything, no matter how you set it. I need to add some front camber. See how it did not want to adjust to the situation just there. And you see, it kicked it out at the back end of the turn. I need all that movement and momentum happening at the apex so that when it happens and you're at the apex, you know which way the car is going to go because you're turning the steering wheel a full direction so that when it does kick up like that, you know that it's going to go in the direction that you're turning. And so that enables you to control it. But if that happening is happening after the apex, then you can't gain maximum speed. Because you have to worry about the car over-rotating after the apex. And you see how ginger I'm going around the corners now because of that? If that happens to you early in your tuning, get off the track and adjust your tune, because it'll start bad tendencies, and instead of getting faster in the car, you'll be getting slower because you're trying to be safe. And in this game, which in racing, by all means, be safe. But in this game, this virtual setup, you want to be as fast as you can in every daggum corner, coming out screaming, coming in screaming, coming out screaming, and people looking around like, what in the hell did he do to that tune to get that car driving around that corner like that? Like, no way. But like yeah. So what's wrong with the car right now? I have many options just because, like I said, I'm trying some new stuff. Like right now, this damping setup is very soft, which could be the reason why my car's not going in and out of the corners like I want it to. Or it could be the camber being lower than I typically and I'm used to, because like I say, I'm trying some new stuff because I don't have the toe. Since I don't have the toe, I don't need a lot of roll an entire camber and suspension compression to handle the front movement with all that speed. Like all of it's lower. And so basically what I'm trying to do is change my entry angles. Like, okay, I'll show y'all. Here, let me do this. I'll show y'all the old way that I used to tune, and it was fast but unstable. And so like you had to put a lot of time into the car. The transmission had to be spot on, because if you had any over rev, the car would spin, no saving it, and you're doing 360s. If you had under rev, the car would nosedive into the corner, and same scenario. And you don't want that. You want an ideal smooth medium in and out of the corners so you can control it. And so like this is the old way that I used to tune right here. Like I used to have this set at 4. Like I had a set standard because like once I found it, it worked, and it worked very well. And I would set this all the way up, and this would be like around there. It would change depending on the car. That would be all the way up. This would be right here. I would have this with very high front camber. I would play with this, sometimes 0, sometimes up to like 8, 6, depending on the car, depending on a bunch of stuff I was talking about. That front toe would get different. Oh wow, what was that? But we're in a Nissan, the engine's in the front. Let's give it a little bit of toe to help it out. Set this in the back to control the rotation. Let's put this up to hold the speed. So the other tune, as you see, I didn't have downforce, so I'm sacrificing speed in the corners for speed in the straightaway. And once I find the median, then I won't be that much slower than this setup in the corners or at the apex. but I'll be 5 to 10 miles an hour faster in a straightaway. And on these straightaways, with the number of them on this track, that can add up fast. Add up in negative time off of it. So like this is the Lexus GR3, ran a 752. I had a time of like a 740 something in the BMW GR3, but right before I crossed the line, I was like, I'm smoking, and I left the track and went straight online to test it out to see if my tune carried over or if I was just driving it very fast on a slow pace, because I didn't know how my pace was at the time. Hold on, you need to swig. Already, the interaction with the wheels and the road sound different already. And that's what tuning is all about, getting your car interacting with the road, the tires and the road acting right. You don't want any discrepancies. You want each tire to have the most tire surface interacting with the road per corner as possible. That's what tuning is. Like, I see some people who tune and they'll turn right and their front right tire comes off the ground because they have the car sitting with so much momentum and speed that it lifts the front right tire off the ground. And depending on the view they drive in, that might be okay for them because they can't see it. But you have to wait for that tire to come back down, gain its proper positioning with the weight of the car, the balancing of the car, and then take the next turn or be ready for or set up for the next turn. And on this track, you don't want that delay. You want your tires crisp. You want them snappy, but you don't want them breaking traction. So this is an old tune. I haven't drove this car on this tune yet. See, with the higher front camber, it brakes slower, but it also gives it more stability, like coming off of the brakes and going into the corner. Like this tune right here is a trip. It looks like what the hell, but then you drive it, you're like, what the hell? How does this work? But you gotta get used to it because it's not snappy. This is what I call a know the track tune. It only works on certain tracks that you know where to brake, where to let off the brakes, where to turn hard, turn soft. It only works there. It's not a malleable tune, what I call a malleable tune. You can drive it everywhere. You just gotta know the track, the situation, and the people around you. I don't like that transmission. But it could be the car. But so I'm tuning it, and I'm already making excuses for it. I don't like the transmission. See, that's why I'm trying to get away from the tune right there, because I don't want to be playing coming out of any corner. I want to know that the car's gonna grip and hold the momentum and weight transfer coming out of the corner. And that's why I'm trying to get away from this tune. It's fast, but it's finicky. And I hate finicky tunes. And it's mainly finicky because of the ride height, the difference in the separation. But like I said, it has the toe to comp for that. Second gear. These gears run short. So the second gear's been giving me a fight in this car. See how I just lost it right there at the end, at the high point of second? And that's why I'm trying to tune it, because I hate that. Like, second is a nemesis gear for a lot of people. If you can figure second gear out, it is the best damn gear ever. But you gotta figure it out, and it's different on every single car. See, when you figure second out, you'll pop that first apex back there, and you'll let off the gas and or the brake. Well, I'll show you, but there's a certain way you can take that hairpin back there where you'll come flying in, and in between both of the apexes, the car will like shift and catch itself, and you're still on the steering wheel pull to the right, and you can hit it perfect, and it'll just catch that last apex, and you'll come out of there screaming. And you can get a lot of separation early in the race on that corner, because a lot of people, if they don't take it right, oh, it's a monster for them. But this is the old tune. Oh, it's stuck real hard right there. See, that's that rear toe. Well, you see how like very precision-y it is? Like every input is an instant input. And I like instant inputs, but I don't like them snappy instant inputs, because that's what snappy instant inputs do. I like smooth instant inputs so that I can control my inertia and momentum a whole lot better and tune it a whole lot better. So like, wait, let me look at something. Okay, yeah, you see that max speed? That max speed is another reason why I'm trying to get away from it, because the car has that much braking, that much cornering, and even the stability is higher on the other version. But with that much stability, if you can fling this car in and out of corners and it's holding and you're confident in and out, this is a very fast GR3 car. But you got to put the seat time in it to earn that, and that's basically all the cars are. Is once you're fast, you have to find a way to get that tune out. Let's try that way. Let's go one more. Let's raise that up. So basically what I'm doing, I raised this up because the car was, when the rear would lose any type of traction, that was it. It was gone. And so like I'm raising it up so if it loses traction, then it won't slip. It'll lose traction and catch. See, if you ever lose traction, you don't want your car to slip. You want it to catch. And the way you make it catch is you either let off the gas, I don't want to say pump the brakes, nor do I want to say tap the brakes, because you have to hit the brakes hard enough to shift the momentum back for the tires to get on back on the track. But at the same time, you got to hold your line. In those situations, it's very tricky. You better be a very good driver to hold the car on the road. But like, I'm trying to adjust the slip and catch with these moves right here. And so this run, I raised it up because my front was it was settling a little too hard and not responding as much. And I'm gonna lower this down for the slip and catch effect. But if you go too low, then your rear end will start sitting, and you don't want it to sit. You just want it to kind of roll. So there's a slide technique when you tune, so that when you hit the brakes, the front nose dives, the rear doesn't really respond. I don't really know that technique. I can't really explain that technique, but I know how to get my car out of it, and I can't really tune my car into it. So I tune all my cars to roll, and I don't like them sliding. I don't like them doing any type of nonsense. I like them rolling. I like a brake, downshift, very brief moment of idle, at a very high speed and throttle. And so I don't like any sliding in my turning because I'm on D-pad. Like I can't feel that car like a steering wheel's feedback on a slide tune technique. Can't do it. And it's very hard for me to try to tune a car that way. I can. It just takes a long time, and the car has to be drove that way all the time. If I want to roll it, the car won't react well. So I hate tuning a car to slide. Sometimes the car makes you tune it to slide, but I'm not tuning that car right now. So I'm at 395. You know what? Let's put it all the way up and see how much that makes it slip. So I know where I was at. And listening to your engine is a very important part. I'm sorry if I drive a view that most of y'all don't like, but it gives me the best car feedback interaction with the road. And so like this view, like since I'm not on a wheel, it feels off ratio, but it's not off ratio because look, that's one of my taps on the D-pad. And so that's me tapping it. But so like sweepers, I have to tap my D-pad because, you know, if I hold it, that's me holding the D-pad. And, you know, you don't really want to be here. You don't really want to be here, or you don't really want to be here because it's a lot to come back from one of these like switchback corners from here to here at 90 miles an hour. A lot has to happen in your front end to make that transition, as well as be at the right speed, be at the right RPM, be at the right suspension load. Like a lot has to happen. So I drive here because now I don't feel that bad, right? So like I can handle that on my D-pad a lot better than being in a steering wheel and having my steering settings set up for the quarter turning, so that while I'm turning it on the steering wheel is more like that or less, or like right there. So like if I had a steering wheel and I could adjust my settings, that like me actual in real life turning it like that right there would be that. But as I'm using it on the steering wheel in real life holding the wheel, I would have my arms like that to achieve that turn in this game, if that makes sense. And vice versa with this side, I'd be turning it like that to achieve that turn, so that my scale of all the way left to all the way right is, I'm not doing this in real life. I want to be here to here, and that is where people with steering wheels are way faster than me, because if they know how to do that and get that in their tune and get it in the game and have their car handling to it, you are so much faster than me, because I'm on controller. I have to, my suspension loading feels different while I'm doing this in the game compared to you doing this in real life to achieve this, which from here to here in real life is instant, whereas I have to gauge this. This is practice, y'all. It has taken me so long to get to tap my taps in this game to do this. It's like when I first started, I was doing this because I couldn't get the taps down, because PlayStation 3 Gran Turismo, it was different. It's just 3 to 4, okay? It was just different, right? So it took me a while to get this, and now I can drive my car and turn it the way I want to turn it with my taps, and not worry about it going all the way here in turns, which this first turn 1 and turn 2 are these turns. Okay, turn 3 is one of these turns, and when I hit the apex in turn 3, I eventually hold it all the way down, but because of my momentum and inertia, the steering wheel won't turn all the way like that. Alright, I'll show you. See, my line's off at this view, but my muscle memory is getting me here. You see my taps? See, I'm holding it all the way down, but that's as far as it'll go because of the inertia and the speed. If you look at the right above the 2 on the gear shifter, like that red dot indicates where your steering wheel's at. So when I'm in this view, I know where my steering wheel is. So like I'm not guessing on where my tapping is. Gran Turismo's in the past, oh no bro, that was all, or ma'am, I'm sorry whoever's watching, that was all taps right there. That was all a guess. You had to guess. But in this game, I can see it. So I've learned where the inertia is gonna pull the steering wheel. So even though it says all the way to the left in the car, it's not all the way to the left because of inertia and momentum. And that is what the tune has gotten me to, because my older tune, no matter what speed I was at, the car was doing this. No matter what speed I was at, older tunes, the car was doing that. Full inertia, full momentum, full everything. And as soon as the car got here, that's what would happen. There was no saving it. There's no connecting it. You don't ever want your car full turn, full speed. Like, that may not sound right, but you don't ever want to be at the speed you're supposed to be at, and your steering wheel is all the way, your tires are fully turned in the well, like, cause they're touching the wells, and they're gonna be rubbing on something going through the corner, and you ain't going fast like that. So like, if you ever are at the speed you're supposed to be at, unless it's a low speed, you gotta get here to make that turn, and you're gonna get there to make that turn. And that's another thing I'm tuning out. I'm gonna just drive one and see how it feels. That's another thing I'm tuning out, because like I've been saying, I'm on controller, so I have to have certain things set, and my low speed, see, like right here, see, I was doing 60 and it was half turned, but it said it was a full turn. So in the tire wells, it's my tires aren't fully turned, but on the steering wheel it's fully turned. It's confusing to explain, but it makes sense once you start driving it and you start switching between the views and you understand. I'm speaking to D-pad players mainly on this section, but D-pad players, you might not like this tune because I tune like I have a steering wheel. Because, I mean, right? Why would I tune otherwise? So this is, how I tune it. I'm just going to give y'all this view. Even though I'm probably a little bit slower. Going off muscle memory. So you see? how the red dot says I'm actually further in the steering turn than I am, but not very much. I wonder if it'll hold though. See, I could fix that. That's either rear camber, rear springs, or rear ride height. Man, this way's fun. Why haven't I been driving like this? Ooh, okay, GTR, I see you. That was scary, so like I messed that corner up because I thought I was about to go off the track. Thank God for that window on the left, because I wouldn't have seen that corner. Yes, I am God-fearing and believing, but I do cuss. I express myself. Forgive me, God. But I try not to use his name in vain. Oh, okay. That's a corner I tuned. That corner right there is a tune point. Like that fucking corner, excuse my French, but that corner right there, it is a fucking corner because you have to tune the car for that corner. It gets nuts. Oh my God, this view. But yeah, so let's get a baseline of this car, where it's at, see what I need to fix. I normally play shooting games and stuff, but right now I feel like driving and tuning the cars. So, tuning cars. Alright, so my rear is a little too loose. I knew that view was, I was driving it soft. So the springs, something is not right. The front feels great. I'm gonna add a tick to the front camber. I didn't have any bouncing, so my damping was good. So if your car bounces on turns, like if you have unnatural bouncing anywhere you don't want it, come over here. This is where you want to play. If you cannot get the bouncing out, then your springs are either, in comparison to these, to your damping, your springs are either too soft or too hard in ratio to these. So look, I'm midway. This is my highest number in the spring. So at the same point, it would be a 57. But this is my highest number in the spring, in the compression. And it's just past halfway. And so so like I said earlier, like the suspension's kind of funny, because like I was coming from the old one, because I couldn't get these cars to stay on the road until I found, my buddy gave me this suspension ratio is what I call it. And I just had to figure out transmissions per cars. But as I showed y'all earlier, so like now I have to figure out how to control the rear swinging. I call it swinging, but the rear momentum of the car. So you have front momentum. You want to break a car down into 3 sections: front, center, and rear. And you can tune the car based on how those 3 sections are acting. So this car, based on many other factors, okay? So you have drivetrain, engine placement, weight, max torque are the main key things that you tune for. Like, horsepower doesn't really matter because there's really only a 1 to 3 variance between the cars. And now when I say horsepower don't matter, don't take this into effect into your transmission. This is suspension, what I'm talking about now. Horsepower matters very much so, but in relation to your torque. So like my max torque says 597, but the horsepower is 694. I know in different cars, especially the Ferrari and the Porsche, their horsepower is like 693 and the torque is like 4 something. So with a low torque band like that, you can get on the gas real fast and there's not going to be much spinning once you get your suspension set up. Like your rear wheels won't spin that much. With a big ass torque like this car has, your transmission better be on point or you're going to spend a lot of time waiting for that time to get on the gas. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, once you figure that out, I say once you figure all that out, like there is a lot of shit to talk about on tuning cars because in so many ways it can go so many ways. And so like you're not going to be able to tune every situation for every scenario because if you were, there wouldn't be wrecks. And we all know in racing, there's wrecks. So it's a trial and error process. So right now, I want my rear end to calm down. I don't want it to be so snappy. So I'm going to lower this. I started it at 395. I went up to see where max was based on everything else. I went up to find the max. I found the max. It's very, very slippery. It is not sticky. So I am going to lower this knowing that 395, it wasn't very, very slippery. It was slipperier than what I wanted it. 5 points will put it marginally there, but I like extremes in this game because that's how you get extremely fast. So let's go 11, down 11. And in relation to the front springs, it looks about balanced, right? So if I went lower in my front ride height, that sliding that I was talking about would induce that. Like there would be matter of fact, let me go 1 tick higher. The sliding would be induced. And if you're sliding and you're tuning, there's a way you can get around it. And that's with a stiffer front end so that when you get on the brake and your car nosedives, well, I say nosedives, but your front end drops, the level of it's going to drop a little bit from the momentum change. Then so like if I lowered the rod height, I would raise this drastically up because as you can see this grid, I can't really show you. But this grid over here, you see how I get over here and it disappears. But the grid to the right shows you. So if you have it soft, the gray line, you see how it's wider. If you have it soft with a high front ride height, it's going to drop down very, very hardly. You will feel it. You will see it. Like you can see it in the view that I drive in. The lines of the road change. The road becomes wider, and on my screen, when the road becomes wider, the nose of the camera is closer to the screen. It's closer to the road, which a whole bunch of times isn't bad. But you can just tell the shift in the shift in the perspective when you hit on the brakes. And you don't really want too much of a shift, but you want a slight shift so that the car springs can load so that you can go at that corner. So because my ride height is high, it allows me to run basically a free frequency setup. I can put the frequency wherever I want based on how the car feels to me. And so when the rear starts swinging like that, I know that the first thing I can toy with is the rear ride height, but in relation to that, the rear frequency. I may call them springs. They've always been free springs. On this one, they wanted to call them frequency. Hey, suit your boat. Call it frequency. But it's, as you read it, the effective spring rate value changes depending on the suspension type and lever ratio. The natural frequency is a representation of how the ride feels as a result of this. Okay? The effective spring rate value changes depending on the type of suspension and lever ratio. What lever? I don't know. Maybe the lever holding the wheels to the car? Maybe the lever holding the frame? The you know, whatever lever? Well, what lever? I don't know. There's a lot of vague shit over here and these little things over here. Explanations. Excuse my French. Like I say, I'm a cursor. But every one of these fields has an explanation on what it does, what it controls. Some of them try to tell you like what will happen this way or that way. So like, if you kept reading, the higher the value, the stiffer the feeling of the ride. The lower the value, the more gentle the ride feels. Matching the natural frequency of the front and back wheels makes for a smoother ride. And that's what I've been talking about this whole time. Getting a smooth ride. And so I figured out, when they say matching the natural frequency of the front and back wheels, so you have to match the frequency of the ride height. When you hit the brake, you don't want the tires rubbing in the tire well. And when you accelerate, you don't want the front end rising a whole lot, nor the rear end dropping a whole lot. If that happens in the way you have your car set up, raise your damping. All of them. Just come in here and raise each of them by 1 tick, and keep going till you get all the way up. If you get all the way up and the car still feels funny, you need to switch the strength of your damping ratios. So if you're like, when I say switch the strength, so I have a lazy front end damping ratio. So I have a stiff rebound with a softer compression. Let me rephrase. I have a stiff front rebound in ratio to my rear and a softer front compression in ratio to my rear. That's why I call it a stiff, lazy front. Whatever I said, a lazy, stiff front. I'm not making it up as I go. I'm putting names on things that I do as I go. So the name may change because I don't have it. I don't have a little notebook next to me reading off of how I tune cars. I tune by feel. I tune by what I know. I tune by what I'm used to. And I just now got back to tuning to muscle memory because my tune's been off. I haven't been able to drive my cars on muscle memory because my tune's been off. So now that I've adjusted the rear natural frequency, if the car is still moving in the rear too much when I turn, then I'm going to come here to my camber angle. I'm going to lower it. But I don't want to lower my camber angle because this is my source of speed in the corners right now. Okay, my camber and my damping ratios. So like I'll tune my cars in a damping ratio to the camber because of the main three things that are interacting with the road: the tires and the suspension, keeping my frame in ratio to the tires, keeping the tires to the road. So I go from the ground up back down to the ground, right? So based on how my tires are interacting, even when I come off the line, I'm listening to my tires and my engine. Because if I'm going through first and my tires are spinning, then I pop it in the second and she snap grips, then I know I need to back my first gear off or I need to lengthen it. Like I haven't gotten into fine tweaking my gearbox yet because it's like that's a world of stuff. Like I could tell you right now, I could go down here, scrap this gearbox, right? Based off of what I know right now, I would scrap this gearbox. I would reset it to default. I would put this to a higher ratio. I'd probably go one click higher. I don't want to mess with nothing right now. I'll show you over here. I'll show you on this one. I'll show you just what I would do because I know that this gearbox is wrong. So this is what I would like start to do. But if I drive this car and this gearbox is banging, then I'm gonna be mad because I didn't do it to the tune page that I'm actually trying to tune. And it's very hard. Well, I might be able to replicate it since like it'll be very, very fresh. I just go to that page and do the same thing over again. And I'm telling, so since I'm speaking it, I could pull it out real easy. But I've come here, reset the default, put it on fully, and I know that I'd want to be at 193, right? And so when I come here and look at 193, I know that when I get to 193, my sixth gear is already going to be where I want it. And so that's why I would do that. And what I still don't know at 193 is where I would have this final gear. So the other gearbox, I started tuning the final gear right here. I came to an even kill. I came to an even kill because initially when I came down here, like you're just not seeing, my final gear is below even kill. So that tells me this car has a lot of built-in top speed and you have to find the acceleration. So the car, so when I put my gearbox on it, it's going to flop. The acceleration is going to be nuts and I have to level it out to get to the top speed. So like that last gearbox, the acceleration was nuts. First gear was bouncing. When I start to level it out, hopefully that first gear will smooth out, which in turn will smooth the rest of my gears out so that they won't be as snappy when I turn. I'm going to the other page. I can already tell I'm going to want to be on the other page. That's just seasoned veteranness talking to me, I'm already going to be on this other page. So you see, I started. No, I went higher than halfway. Okay, that one went higher than halfway. So let's do it like this. We're going to put it to halfway since it went higher than halfway. And now I don't have a gearbox to fall back on because I've scrapped both pages. So be careful of what you do with your gearboxes because I scrapped both of my pages. So this gearbox better be good. 205, that's higher than the last one. So let's see how it rolls. GR3, some of my cars, they get up to like 210, 211, 213. But as you saw, like it bounced back down to 7.2 or 7.1. So I know the game is telling me the sweet spot is 208 and below for 6th gear to have a sweet spot. It's 208 and below. So the last one was 201. Let's try 205. The last gearbox was at 165. I mean at 65. Yeah, it was at 65 because I remember going to the lower speed 5.8 versus the higher speed 5.8. Oh. 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 Did y'all see that? That joker bounced up to 6.0. That joker bounced up to 6.0 at 75 miles per hour. Okay, I'm gonna teach y'all something right here. So basically I had my 6th gear set. Like when I get done with all of these gears, like the ideal situation is to not touch 6th gear. Okay? So like when I get in there and I get into 6th gear and it is boggy or anything else based on 1 through 5, if everything else is good but 6th gear is boggy, all I'll do is come down here to that final gear and I'll move it to the right just a little bit. And then I'll get back on the track and see how it rolls. And if it rolls smooth and good, then I'll then go back to my suspension and start tuning that. So like I'll set the transmission, put a baseline suspension and everything else on it, and then I teeter back and forth between the two until I have a sweet spot on everything. And when you got that sweet spot on the controller and the D-pad, buddy, you are fast because you can then start to find your braking points and your acceleration points. You get fast. You get fast, fast. You get fast, fast. And so I'm finna try this little funky little thing out. But the trick with this is I'm gonna have first gear putting down all of this torque and acceleration, and second, third, fourth, and fifth might be moving too fast before. But you know what? Let's try something here. That's a 75. I do not want 100 mile an hour second gear. That means I gotta spend time dropping down to first. And this acceleration ain't like other cars. I don't want to be in first that damn long. Let's see if it pulls. Let's see if it pulls. It might pull. Since I know it runs short, let's put it right at 100. And since I know it runs short, let's put this right there. When I say I know it runs short, I know that I'm going to be shifting before I hit 157. And since I've been driving it, I've noticed it's about 2 miles per hour short than what it says. So really, I'm gonna be shifting at 153. I'm gonna be shifting this at 178-ish. That seems like nuts to me, but let's see how it goes. It seems like pure nuts. 178 fifth gear. I'm using up all my torque, so that 6 ain't gonna run at all. You see how it's bouncing when it's going through there? You don't want that. You want a smooth go up, like that just was. And that. Okay, it might be alright. It just might be bouncing. Wheels might be coming off the ground. Let's see how this does. See how it only went to 72? 24. Oh, it's boggy. It's extremely boggy. Oh, but it is smooth, but it is boggy. I do not want to be in first gear going around that corner. But I like it though, so let's just, like I say, I'm tuning from scratch out, so I'm trying all kinds of things. So let's go and do that number there. Let's do that number. That might put the snap in it that I'm looking for. Let's move this back. We're gonna put it on the border of 5 and 9. 5 and 9. I say we. I'm gonna put it on the border of 5 and 9. Like I got an audience. So now I'm looking at this graph over here on the right side. And the gap between first and second gear. Yeah, let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. You know what? I could add some downforce. That might change a lot of shit. Let's put 5 ticks. Oh. Oh my. Yeah, I gotta start in first. I gotta drop it all the way down to first. Alright, so still have a very small. Oh my goodness, this car is a monster. Still have a little bit of slippage in the rear. And I gotta get used to this gear ratio because I'm not used to it being this wide. The car's not reacting like I optimally want it to. Like I could take it online and I'd be competitive, but I don't know if I'd win. Yeah, you see how it didn't react to that? It stayed on the wide line. It didn't have a decreasing line into the corner. 37. So I have other tuning videos up and they're only like 10-20 minutes. And this one's gonna say an hour and some change, and tuning a car, tuning it the way I'm tuning it, takes weeks. I have quick tunes. I'll just slap on a car and I can drive them. I have to concentrate extremely hard. But like, I'm barely concentrating. I'm doing more thinking than concentrating right now. Oh my goodness. I might need to raise the ride height up one tick in the rear. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that second gear is not nice. I stopped praising the tune because I realized that the front end was not doing what I wanted to do, which in turn is giving almost a false feedback of what the rear could do. But because the front is wrong, the rear is not very off of what I want it to do. It's just not. The front of the car is telling the rear to be a certain way, and it's doing what the front's telling it. So when I fix the front, get down there, get down there. Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay, I learned a lot just then. See, I really don't drive GR3s for this very reason that I'm about to talk about, because I was about to talk about it, and then I ordered my thoughts, and I realized that I'm tuning them wrong. And you seen how that jump just happened there? Like, I'm tuning them wrong. Because that's why they're race cars. They can hold that speed going around the corners. Alright, here's a golden Gran Turismo nugget. If you're still here after an hour and a half, here is a golden nugget. Like, I haven't given you like 15 of them already. Here is a valuable one. Most forward rear drivetrain cars, most of them, now street cars and race cars are different, like I've said before, but most of the forward rear drivetrain race cars, you're going to want a lower rebound in the front because the engine is in the front. You have so much weight in the front of the car, unless they've invested and researched that much to balance the car properly. But the engine is in the front, so typically you want your front softer, reacting, dropping down when you brake, slow to rise when you're coming out of the corner to stabilize, than the rear. Because in mid-rear cars, you have the engine back here, but you also have all of that swing and movement at the apex in the rear. So you want your front holding a stiffer line so that your rear has a definite path to follow, opposed to a front a front car where you want the rear being able to move but not come off the line and the rear of it follow, because that's where all of the action is happening, in the rear on the throttle, but the heart of the car is at the front. So you gotta have, like, that interaction has to be something beautiful in forward rear cars as well as mid rear cars, but they're tuned different. And that is one of the ways to soften a front end on a forward rear car with a lower front rebound. And that is conversely the way that you stiffen a front end car with the higher rebound. See, like, look, I could have done this number here, and while this was there, like, I could have done this and put it one tick lower than what it was. But from tuning from my experience, this being that close to this is gonna cause problems. Because with a low, well, you know what? Let's try it. It might be the smoothness that I'm looking for. Usually I take the long path here so that when I finally got here to this one that I normally know that I'm going to end up on, I will have tried everything else so that I don't have to leave this, try some other stuff that don't work, and then come back to this because I know it does work. That will build confidence, but it will waste time. You see what I'm getting at here? You want to be able to tune these cars the fastest that you can so you can get them in an online lobby and show off your car, your tune, your paint job, your driving skill, whatever. Talk to your homies, you know, bloat in front of some Europeans who swear Americans can't drive the Nürburgring, whatever reason. You just want to not want to be spending a whole lot of time tuning cars. Why spend a whole lot of time tuning cars when you can be spending more time racing them and showing them off? And look what I learned here, spending time like I'm doing, tuning this and this and this. So like I'll take this, what I'm learning in this forward rear car, and transfer it. But like I show you in the very beginning, that graph is what you'll go by when you transfer the tune over, and you'll just minor tweak things like what I'm doing now to find the optimalness in the car. Like I'm just minor tweaking it and finding a different tune from a different baseline tune. Like on the other baseline tune that I showed y'all, I would go a total different direction because I would have specific set. The rear toe, the ride height, the natural frequency. I would peter with the damping, and I would peter with the transmission. Everything else will be set. So I'm trying to get away from that because every car ain't the same and you can't tune them the same. But you can find a baseline to apply different mechanics across the car in the same way, across cars in the same way. And that's all that I'm talking about here. Is how I get my baseline on different cars. My starts suck in GR3s. I should have chosen a different car, but that's why I'm here. Oh my goodness, that was so smooth. I went in there going 100. I knew there was a way to stay around 100 at that turn. Oh yeah, I am running big gearbox. Oh, she went through there in the 20s. Okay, so now this has me looking at my ride height differently, because I can raise my front end. It's got me thinking about stuff different, because I can smooth and I can lighten my entries up. Oh, that fifth gear was sorry though. Alright, hold on, we gotta see what fifth gear looks like. If that fifth gear is sorry like that, then we ain't using this gearbox. I'll use some aspects of it. God, that second is righteous right there. But I hate being a second in those S's. That's why. Let's try that again. Alright, I'm about to wrap it up, y'all, because I can't give all of my tuning stuff into one session, and this is going on 1 hour and 40 minutes. because it's just, I'll go in a room and try and run and see how it does to end it. I might have to start in second. Oh good, no smoke went by. Okay, so she's slowing down proper. See, I bet she's gonna slip in second starting. Yep. That's what you're trying to prevent. If that's what your car does off the line, you don't start in that gear or get back in the tuning page. You do not want full slip off the line, ever. Roll off of it, whatever. Get to 100 as fast as you can. Stay out of one. Ooh, yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Stay out of second. We might have a keeper on our hands. I do not like this gear at all. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Can I get a 180? 180? Can I get a 180? 181? 181? Woo! Okay. So that's how I take that. The reason I'm tuning this car is because I don't see anybody driving this car, so I wanted to figure out why nobody drives it. And yeah, of course, there are faster cars. That's why people don't drive it. There are the Porsche, the BMW, both BMWs. I mean, they're faster cars. Like the Nissan is not the greatest. And, I mean, people complain about this car so much when they can't beat it. Cause someone like me will come along and do what I'm doing to it. And it is so sticky. I knew y'all was going. So they want me to get down in the first gear on that turn. That's why I got squirrely right there. Oh, for those who don't know, no assist. The only thing I'm running is ABS on weak. Once I get this set with this transmission, I'm gonna make another transmission. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy what I have, NERV 1, a full copy over on NERV 2. I'm gonna rename NERV 1. I'm gonna rename it into NERV 2 Tran. So that I know when I get back in the car, that's the second transmission. That right there is why I would do another transmission. Because it's kicking too long, it's taking too long in the second, whereas before I was going too fast to it. So now that I know that being at 92, when I shift is too long for my taste, I'm gonna move the needle on my final gear to the right even more, because I know I don't like 5th gear as well as 6th gear. Because I don't like 5th gear, I know 6th gear is not gonna work the way I want it to, because 5th gear is taking entirely too long. I remember when I said it, I saw 178, like, I don't know. When I didn't slip, I'll be able to take that in third. Gotta take this in second, because there's no way around it with this setup. As well with this one. I'm still at 80, I got below it though, so that was bad. There's certain speeds that I'm trying to maintain per corner. I don't really get all into it, because there's a lot, even that much more to talk about. That's a notorious corner back there. It's another one of those corners that let you know your tune is off. If you hit it full throttle and your car bounces up like mine and goes wherever it wants, your tune's off. This car feels great in so many situations, and bad, not horrible, but bad in others. I gotta go look at 5th gear. If it says 178 and I'm shifting, or I'm able to shift it at 168, the gearbox is wrong. You want to get your gear shifts as close to where it says when you're making it as possible. The farther away that you are, the farther away from the max speed that you can achieve. So look, it says I got 181. Let's put the time down. I hit 181, and I know it says 837. That's horrible. I must have stopped. I must have stopped. Because these are the GR3 cars, and this is the one GR2 time that I did do. And that car, that wasn't even the other car. I did the GTR, the GR2 GTR, the Zanabi, the Legend. Oh my goodness. Alright, so I'm back down to 7.1. So it's gotta be, yep, 176. I short shifted it, but still, that's a very big gap. Alright, third looks funky. like my first gear. Alright, let's shorten this. Let's shorten this. Let's shorten this. Let's shorten that. Shorten that more. Shorten this more. Let's pull this in. 7.1. Does it go up? It does not go up. That's why people don't drive this car. Okay? 2 hours into tuning it, and I can tell you right now, me driving this car online is probably not a reality. Like, I just wasted 2 hours because this car right here and this car right here, this is a fast version of GR3. If I did to this car what I'm doing right now, I would have people hating me because it's a fast car, just naturally fast. This car came into existence, into the world because of this game. There is a real live version of this car because of this game. The company doesn't make cars to sell to the public. Like, you gotta have like, I want to say like 3 mil just for one of these street legal cars. And it's 3 mil, and it's completely exotic. Completely exotic. So like, if I did a whole bunch of other GR3 cars, except for that one, it rolls good. Like, that car right there is not a Nürburgring car. I'd take that car to a track, a circuit track, and just have my ball there, make people mad because they didn't know that car is that good. And it'd be a real good circuit car. Open, get somewhere, 190 mile an hour track. Nah, that car ain't that good. That car ain't that good. Look, I can show you just on the first daggum column, because I was trying to tune this car yesterday. Look, 6.8 and a 7.5, and this car has full downforce. This is the car that made me want to start tuning again because I couldn't drive it yesterday. I could not drive this car yesterday. And one thing I know about this car, this is perfect. It hits these speeds. But, I mean, it's a Porsche with an excellent graph. Look at this graph. Look at that graph. I'm not going to continue talking your head off, but I said it earlier how it tells you different things. And so this is what this graph tells me, just looking at it. It tells me I can get low in the RPMs and still have a damn good torque to horsepower ratio, low in the RPMs, and at around 5,000 RPMs to 6,000, I'm going to be at max torque. And I'm going to hold a very high torque band all the way up to 9,000 RPMs from 5,000 RPMs. And I'm going to hit my peak horsepower. So I'm going to be gaining horsepower from 5,000 RPMs. What is it? Start dipping. Looks like at about 8.3 all the way to 8.3 RPMs. That's 3,000 revolutions per minute of optimal power band. That's why this car's a monster. But look, I'm gonna just give you an example of the GR3s in this game and how they just so unbalanced. Okay, so we've been looking at that one for 2 hours. Okay, look at this. 6.8, 7.7. 5.8 stability, okay? And you feel it. This car is so wide and so flat, it's very unforgiving in the corners. Like if them tires slip, they're gone. Like I was trying to tune it, and I spent some time tuning it, and I spent some more time tuning it. You see how the torque is very lower than that Skyline? And I spent more time tuning it, and I could not. See, this is an old tune, and I was trying everything I could think of. I could not settle this car down. It's very fast. And now that I'm in the transmission, I see why I couldn't settle the car down. There ain't no forgiving in the transmission. So they should have gaps that look like that. The gap should be about that big between each gear, and that in that ratio. That's the trick of it. Like you gotta spread them out. Let me show you. So like you have to spread them out, but you gotta keep your eye on that acceleration over there because you don't want it to dip too low because you won't be coming out of corners the way you should. So you gotta spread it out to where your first gear and your last gear are far enough apart to spread out your speed for your stability, but not so far apart that your car bogs down. And so that's that. But this car right here is something else. And let's take a look at this graph. That's why it's something else. Cause you better be on that power band and in the safe zone of that power band, or you're gonna lose it. It's got a very wide power band, so like you can tune the gears however you want, just based on your style. But there's a right way to tune cars and there's a wrong way, and if you have to do too much compromising, you're doing it wrong. Try tuning this car. So basically, I saw this car, okay? So I saw 4.8 and 4.7 and 6.4. I was like, I wonder. So I went and started looking for cars with better stats all the way. I wanted better max speed. I wanted better acceleration. I wanted equal braking and cornering and equal to or better stability. That's how I ended up here. Just on a whim, trying something out. Because there ain't another GR3 car with this. And if you can figure out a way to get this and this in order with this, and this, with just braking and stability, if you can get all four of these synergized, so you're doing very little braking, holding a lot of speed in your corners, accelerating out of it in a stable position, this car would then be fast and very hard to beat. But you got to, like I was saying, you got to put a lot of time in it. I ain't never raced it, nor won races. I've just tried to tune this thing. This car's a monster. That car's a monster. This car's something else. I probably tried the most with this car because everybody drives this car. I seen the dude the other day. His car was legendary, but he wasn't on Nürburgring, and I could tell his car might not have worked so well on Nürburgring, but I didn't know. We didn't go. This car is just like the GR4 car. It has 0 braking and cornering, but Lord have mercy, look at that acceleration. 7.0. And look at there, that's... I tried some other stuff out. I remember now, this car wouldn't settle down. She was too wild. But yeah, so like, it's hard to find a car with the stats of this car and the speed of this car. One of the closest ones. See, this car's an absolute legend. Like, if you can figure this car out, oh my gosh, it does 200 miles an hour. Yeah. Look at that torque. I should have tried tuning this car. I'm about to get off now. Got some things I want to do. I may start a broadcast later tuning this car. Yeah, see, that's why I love this car. It gets in that torque fast, and that's what you gotta tune down here. That's why these numbers are so high. It gets in that torque fast, but that torque falls off while the horsepower is still going up, so it feels like it's calming down as it's going faster, and it never slows down. It just climbs. But like, this better be on point, because if that ain't on point, it ain't staying on the road. And from what I remember, I couldn't sit it down right. She was wanting to slide straight off the road like a noob. And so I jumped out of it, but I'm pretty sure now as I'm looking at it, I see some things. Especially that damn front camber. Ain't no way you're gonna keep the car on the track that fast with that camber. Yeah, look, the braking went up instantly. Hand stability went down. But the braking went up instantly. Yeah, see, I bet this... What? That's why she wouldn't stay on the road. I'm about to drive this car. I bet with all of this speed, I could do this and it'll still be alright. Now, since I'm doing that, let's do this. $205. This is where I get all my paint jobs from. I don't think I got any paint jobs for this car. Because when it came out, the updates hadn't been as frequent as they are now, and so the tuning wasn't where it is now. And so you couldn't, the cars did not feel like they feel now. So I stayed away from it because this is a very finicky car. I ain't talked this much in years. Shoot. Alright. Yeah. See, I'm sitting here thinking I can go to this track and tune the car for this turn, this turn, this turn, and this turn, and just do things that have me taking that small big section and no other part of the track, right? So you just tune the car until it's taking all of this smooth the way you want it. You want to be in like a very, very low second gear on turn one. You want to be in third gear, and you want to be coming in a high third. And then as you go around it, you want to be coming out in low third. And you want to run third all the way. Some cars you can pop it into fourth. And then you want to downshift very shortly, very fastly, quickly into this turn in the second. You'll be in like mid second, and then you'll like come through this turn, like going down into a lower second. And as you turn the car and you're going down in the lower second, you'll get in like a quarter throttle. And as you hit that quarter throttle, that rear rotation that I'm talking about, that I've been talking about, it will do it right on the apex. And then as soon as you see, feel, whatever, you just slam it. And she comes out of there so beautifully. You don't go wide into that grass. You just come out of there so beautifully. And you just tune the car for those 3 sections. And by the time you're done with that, if you got it done right, you should be able to do the rest of the track no problem. Only thing is you'll have to tune your top speed for this section. But your first, second, third, and fourth gear should be good. Well, early fourth. Um, Mid to late fourth, fifth, sixth gears, you're gonna spend tuning here, but do not try to see the top of sixth gear on this straight. It's not long enough for this track. You just want to barely, if you see six, you want to barely see six on this straight. And the same thing for this straight too. Yeah. But that's where you can go if you don't want to deal with all of NERB at one time. You go tune this track and and I'm talking like you get your lap times down. You get them down. But when you do that and you get over here, you're going to have to open your transmission back up. And when you do that, then you're going to have to retune your suspension. So that's why I say just tune that small section right there, because it helps you get your low speed control. Because if you're regular running this, then you're pretty good at acquiring high speed control. But the problems on this track is low speed control. So when you find the balance of low speed and high speed control, which is just basically control, when you can control your car, then you're good. Like you'll start to start to search for the next level of speed, and that is increasing your speed per turn. So there are levels to tuning, levels and dynamics to tuning, things you are trying to achieve while tuning. I don't even know if I want to tackle this monster right now. This thing is a serious monster. Because it is so fast. So fast. I'm just giving it a quick look over because the damping was too stiff. It was going to make the car bounce or slide. And I'm trying to find my tuning of rolling. Oh man, look at this gearbox. Let's try it. Because I know this car's super duper tuned. I don't do sport mode, so all of my referencing are from a tuning aspect. I hate sport mode. Those cars are not balanced. See, what they should do in sport mode, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, because like sport mode is a joke to me. Like the way they have some cars weighing this and some cars weighing that, and some cars with this much horsepower and a torque band of this, and other cars have so much less horsepower and the torque band is shit. Excuse my French. Like it just, like they call it balance of performance and nothing's balanced. Like what in the hell? But then again, like I understand on another scale, because like, see, you have to compare the cars. I'd have to give you two cars and, you know, look at them and yada, yada, yada. But I'm just telling you right now, you cannot pick any car and be competitive in sport mode. You cannot pick any car in GR2, 3, 4, or 1. Any of the race car packages, you can't just pick any car and be competitive. I wish it was like that, but no, they didn't want to set the standards like that and have every car's power band in similar ratios. No, they didn't want that. So I don't drive sport mode. The cars feel so jacked up to me. Shucks, look how fast this thing is. What kind of gearbox is this? Why was it bouncing like that? Are you going that fast? You can't keep up with your own self? Oh my goodness. What kind of gearbox is this? I knew it. God. That's why I wanted a new gearbox. Alright, we gotta do that right now. That car felt amazing. $186. I knew this car does 200. Alright. So I want top speed with acceleration. I'm gonna leave that right there. I'll put that right there. I'm gonna move this over here. So that's the fastest it can go. It is supposed to stop at 214 miles an hour. So if I catch a draft and I can hit 214, then I want to be able to hit 220. So we're going to 225. Let's see what the acceleration does. Alright, so I can run a quick gearbox. And it also wants me to run a long gearbox. I was about to say, don't give me no freakiness. Alright, so what I just did there on old Gran Turismos took about 2 hours. What I just did with first gear right there. But since they give me a graph, which, I mean, they took away a whole lot, but they gave me so much in return. I say so much, but they gave me other things in return. So that first gear, finding the sweet spot in first gear used to take me all about 2 to 3 hours, and it would just be pure transmission work. There would be no other, I wouldn't even like put values on these. Like on the old game when you could buy the parts, I wouldn't even buy the parts. I would be on a stock suspension, a stock drivetrain, because I drove street cars. I didn't care for race cars in the old one, but when this one came out and I felt how the cars drove, I knew that race cars were going to be fun again to tune. And so, like, it just took so effing long to get a first gear that was optimal acceleration, but not bouncing when you revved it. It was forever. Alright, we're going to leave second where it's at. It looks great. The rest of the gearbox, except for fifth gear. Alright, so we're going to move this way. Yep, that looks good. Move this way. Oh, I went too far. I'm going to move that back. I'm going to put fifth. Alright. There. Oh, look at that curve. That looks good. Let's add 2 ticks on the camber. I felt like it could have used 2 ticks. If the rear end starts swinging, I'm going to take that tick right back off. Why is it so fast? I'm hitting the zone with this thing. I might not say much, y'all. I've spoken a lot on what I'm trying to do, and so the front end felt boggy. It wasn't responding like I wanted it to. See how the front end kind of went with the curve. It didn't jump. It didn't dip. It went nicely around the curve. It did all of the dipping before the curve. It's a lot of smoke. Something still ain't right. Let's try it. sounded right. Okay. Okay. One, two, one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got a gap difference of 9 ticks in my ride height, and my rear end isn't acting right. And it's not acting right on exit. So that means after the nose compresses and then it rebounds at or after the apex, when I get on the throttle, so the rear is too soft. I think my front springs are too soft, is what I think. Oh, the time didn't start. What a G move. That's how you start it. I think I just found my GR3 car. And they can't say nothing to me because it ain't got no other handling. I had a whole bunch of other GR3 cars, so it says it doesn't. Whatever I did fixed everything. Whoa, whoa. Oh my goodness. 185? Oh my goodness. That's what it is. Goodness. Wow. Let's do that. Matter of fact, let's do that. And then let's do that. Let's see how it does with that. Braking is good. Acceleration is good. Let's put a tick back on it. We're gonna need to open that up a little bit more. What do you get to? 7.8 is your max? No way. I've hit the sweet spot already. Alright. Let's see. How more front spring does. Let's put that on an apple. Let's see what that does. What was that? Way too early. Way too late. And that was way too wide. Makes me want to start over. better when I do that. I think I just need to lower my rear springs. Natural frequency. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Alright. What is that? What are you at? 295? Okay, so it's rotating more. So 338, 315. So that's gotta be a sweet spot. Let's try this. Did I put the rear toe on this? Goodness. Lord have mercy, I want another cup of coffee. Alright, after this attempt, the stream will be ending. I know this is like my third time saying that, but I'm a true racehead. I don't force myself to stop, but some time will be lost. I bet the rear camber would set it down more too. shoot. Alright, people. I hope y'all have a happy new year. That is my New Year's tune session. Covering the Nissan GTR Chassis Motorsport 2013. And this monster of a car, the Ford GT Spec 2. That is now my GR3 car. All others have been cast aside. This car will be tuned into the max. And yeah, it's gonna be a blast when I get it all said and done. Like, yeah, I might even drive it in that cockpit view because it was holding some speed. Whew. All right, party people. Y'all have a good one. Be safe out there. Don't drink and drive.